Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first let's talk about Kiev. Today we got more videos from different angles of how the Russians were attacking the plant by the name of Artyom. In this video that was made by Ukrainian civilian, we can see significant number of Russian cruise missiles Ha-101 that were attacking the Ukrainian industrial zone. This is the second missile, and during the video we're gonna see 4 missiles. As you can see, the Russians were pretty accurate, and every single missile they launched reached the target. This is very important because we still haven't received more or less reliable evidence or proofs that the attack on the hospital in Kiev was made by the Russians. We still continue receiving different updates from different sources that the attack was made by the Russian Ha-101 missile. Other sources reported that that was an attack by Ukrainian air defense system NASAMS. That's the rocket of this air defense basically fell down in the area of the hospital. So I believe, and I told you in the previous video, most likely we will not receive a certain answer to this question, and only after the end of the special military operation we might get the truth. Furthermore, the sources reported, pro-Ukrainian sources reported, that as a result of that attack the Russians destroyed significant number of officers and personnel who were maintaining the air defense system. So that was the target of the Russian forces. It's according to Ukrainian sources. According to the Russian sources, the Russians managed to destroy the warehouse with significant number of air defense missiles, with ATACMS missiles, Storm Shadow missiles, and different types of weapon. So completely different opinions, as you can see. Once again, we will understand, we'll find the truth probably only after the end of the special military operation. As for Poland, we continue receiving updates about the negotiation between Ukraine and Poland itself, and according to information we have, there was another important paragraph in the agreement between Poland and Ukraine, and according to this part, the Poland will start creating something like a Polish Foreign Legion. That's every single Ukrainian on the territory of Poland will be able to join. So we'll see, of course, what is going to be next. Now let's move to the line of combat contact, and first we're going to talk about Sumy direction. If you remember, we were talking a lot about the territory in the vicinity of Sumy. We were talking a lot about the village of Ryzhivka that the Russians managed to capture. We talk a lot about the territories along the border, like the village of Zhuravka, that was bombed by the Ukrainians, if you remember, and the video was published a few days ago. And the Russians don't provide us any updates about the situation on the borderlands, but the Ukrainians are saying that everything is okay, that there are no Russians in this area, and that they control the situation completely. But today the Russian sources published very interesting video. In the vicinity of the village by the name of Stetskovka, we can find a significantly big, very big convoy of armored forces of Ukraine. Probably from 10 to 20 armored vehicles or personnel carriers were located in this area, and most likely the Ukrainians were heading towards the borderlands with the purpose to stabilize the situation. But the Russians managed to discover the concentration of Ukrainian forces, and as you can see, as a result of Iskander strike with cluster warhead, the entire convoy was completely destroyed. The Russians are saying that around 20 armored vehicles were damaged or destroyed, but we still don't know exact number of the personnel of armed forces of Ukraine that was also destroyed as a result of this Russian fire. So, summarizing everything, we can make a conclusion that there are very big risks and very big problems on the border between Ukraine and Russia. The Ukrainians made an attempt to stabilize the situation, but they were discovered and completely destroyed. Now let's move to Volchansk direction. We have additional updates. Volchansk-Kharkiv direction, we have additional updates. The Russian sources published significant number of videos of how they were bombing Liptsy, Slobozhanskaya with FABs. The Russian sources stated that during the previous 24 hours they attacked the positions and the headquarters of 12th Brigade with FAB 3000, with ADAB 1500, and different types of FAB of less caliber. As a result of those strikes, the Ukrainians lost around 80 soldiers, so significant number, as you can see. So lots of videos, and this is the moment when the Russians attacked the positions of 12th Brigade with FAB 3000. This this attack took place in the southern part of the village by the name of Slobozhanska. So Slobozhanska is the next village to Liptsi before Kharkiv. But on the other hand, we continue receiving updates about the situation in Hlyboke that develops in Ukrainian favor. Today, the Russian sources, the forces of 155th Division, published a video of how they were FPV droning the Ukrainian forces inside of the village. So in this episode, we can see FPV drone strike by the Russians on farms. So these are the farms, these are the barracks that were attacked by the Russians. Based on this video, we made the conclusion that the Ukrainians improved their positions and expanded their foothold in the northern part of Hlyboke. So currently the Ukrainians control the farms completely. Most likely the next stronghold, the next trenches is under complete Russian control, but farms itself and the tree lines and some buildings and streets in Hlyboke under Ukrainian. So as you can see, there are very heavy clashes, and as we discussed during the NATO summit, most likely the Ukrainians will try to establish complete control over the village and to force the Russians to fall back. Now let's move to Volchansk direction. The Ukrainians continue attempts to attack the Russian forces along the Seversky Donetsk River, along the newly created foothold. But for now, according to the Russian sources, the Ukrainians haven't managed to achieve any results, and most of their attacks were repelled. So the Russians managed to save their presence on the Ukrainian side of Seversky Donetsk River. Very interesting details and videos we received from Volchansk direction. They are very weird, because the video was published by the Ukrainian sources. The video was geolocated by pro-Ukrainian sources, and the Ukrainians are saying that in this video we can see moments and episodes of how the Ukrainians were FPV droning the Russians all over the entire Volchansk and Kharkiv direction. And there is a very important episode on the 17th second. This is it. And according to the Ukrainian sources, in this video we can see the moment when how the Ukrainians were bombing the Russian positions in the northern part of Volchansk. The video was geolocated, so this is on the 17th second. We can see an explosion. This is it, and then we can see a fire in the vicinity of this bridge that was destroyed by the Russians. I'm not telling you anything. Maybe the Ukrainians made a mistake, but according to this video, the Russians somehow managed to cross Vovcha River and to establish complete control over the territory, something like this. For now, we need more details and more evidence to confirm this, but I'll repeat myself that according to this information was provided by a very reliable Ukrainian source. They're doing geolocation stuff. Maybe they made a mistake. Maybe they were showing the video of how the Russians were bombing the Ukrainian positions, but they never did this before. So very interesting and very weird. Let's wait for additional updates, and maybe the Russians managed to break through the Ukrainian defense belt and to enter the southern part of Volchansk. Let's wait. Now we are moving further. As you can see, northern Kupiansk direction, we have lots of explosions, lots of FABs and 12 flamethrower systems. For now, we still haven't received any details about the battle for Pishane. Probably there are very heavy clashes. And now let's go to Toretsk agglomeration in New York, Toretsk. We have additional updates. The Russians continue bombing Toretsk itself with FABs with different calibers, and the most important that today the Russians published us some details about New York offensive operation. If you remember, during the previous few days, New York and Druzhba and Pivnichne, these settlements were the main areas of Russian progress, and it was very difficult to understand how the Russians managed to break through the Ukrainian defense belt. A few days ago, we got a report that the Russians created an underground pipeline, and they managed to, let's say, the pipeline was around 3 kilometers, and basically the Russians managed to enter Ukrainian positions behind the main defense belt of armored forces of Ukraine, and that allowed the Russians to capture significant territories. And that was in the vicinity of Druzhba, in the vicinity of Mayorsk. And today we got details about New York offensive operation, and the Russians did the same, made the same thing. They created another tunnel in this area. The tunnel is 90 centimeters wide, enough for a fighter with older ammunition and to crawl through. The 180 centimeters tall military correspondent stereo that had to move bent over. So there was a tunnel in New York as well. We don't know the exact length of that pipeline, of that underground tunnel, but that was the third in a row pipeline operation since the beginning of the special military operation. Basically, the Russians also moved through the Ukrainian defense belt, landed somewhere behind, maybe in Yurivka or something like this, and basically they collapsed and destroyed Ukrainian positions that were located in the south. So that was the operation in this area. And as you can see, very interesting. Probably in the future we're going to receive additional updates. Now let's move to the western Avdiivka direction. The Ukrainian pro-Ukraine mappers confirmed additional Russian progress in the vicinity Novoalexandrovka. The Russians improved their positions towards the villages of Vozdvizhenka and Baranovka. As for Lazavatska, as you can see, according to pro-Ukrainian sources, the Russians managed to reach the outskirts of the village. It's not even a village, there are just probably a few buildings or something like this, but anyway, summarizing everything, the current distance between the edge Russian positions and the village itself or the road itself is around 1 kilometer, maybe even less. We have additional updates about Russian progress towards progress. The Russians improved their positions along the railways, according to pro-Ukraine mappers, also managed to shorten the distance between the village itself and the main Russian positions. More details are coming from Novoselovka Persha. Today, the Russians managed to improve their positions in the northeastern part of the village, and currently there are very heavy clashes for this stronghold. The Russians managed to semi-encircle this territory from the north, from the east, and from the southeast, and most likely today the Russians will try to capture the stronghold completely, and after that the days of Novoselovka Persha will be numbered completely. So the most important thing that this area was under the responsibilities of 47th Mechanized Brigade, and we see that this brigade began abandoning their positions. As for the rear, the Russians continue FPV droning and hunting the Ukrainian forces, personal carriers, armored vehicles that Ukrainians were trying to use to supply and support their forces between Novoselovka Persha and Yasnobrodovka Skuchna in the area of that artillery pocket. Anyway, summarizing everything with the situation for the Ukrainians develops very bad. We haven't received anything special about South Donetsk direction, about the Robotina area or Kherson direction. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.